Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you decided to join us today because we are looking at something that might just completely change the way you think about where you live.
Yeah, it's a huge topic.
It really is. Right now, here in spring 2026, the very definition of what makes a suburb is, well, it's being radically rewritten.
Absolutely.
And we've got a really fascinating stack of materials today to get into. Primarily, we are looking at a publication called The Many Faces of the West Island,
Mm-hmm.
which we sourced from wikiesidence.k and infodrone.k. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We are going to explore how the opening of the REM's West Island branch in Montreal is not just about, laying down a shiny new train line.
Right, it's so much more than that.
Exactly. It is a complete economic and social metamorphosis.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's essential to understand why this specific moment in time matters so much.
Yeah, why now?
Right. Because we've hit this milestone in spring 2026 where the familiar hum of the Réseau Express Metropolitana,
Yep.
it now reaches all the way to its terminus at Anse-Lorme.
Which is huge.
It is. What we are witnessing is the transformation of what used to be these isolated, almost compartmentalized residential pockets.
Just rows of houses.
Exactly. And turning them into a vital, fully integrated economic corridor for the entire metropolitan area.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the sheer scale of what is happening on the macro level it's a lot to process.
It's massive.
So let's start with the economics, the concrete, and the demographics. There is a documented RM effect on real estate.
Oh, big time.
If you own property anywhere near this line, you are probably paying very close attention right now.
I know I would be.
Right. Within just a 1-kilometer radius of the new stations, property values have seen a 15 to 25% premium.
Yeah.
Compared to residences in more isolated sectors. But I have to ask, does a train station alone really justify a quarter increase in the value of a home?
It does when you factor in what that proximity actually represents. It's the permanent elimination of a frustrating commute.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We've seen this exact success model play out already in Brossard, specifically around the Panama and Decordier stations, and over in Laval, too.
Right.
The West Island is now experiencing that same hyper-accelerated transformation. And if you look at the projections from the ARTM...
That's the Regional Transit Authority, right?
Correct. The one responsible for planning and integrating transportation across Greater Montreal. They are anticipating daily ridership to exceed 30,000 users for this specific branch by the end of the year.
Wait, 30,000 users a day?
Every single day.
If you dump 30,000 commuters into a quiet suburban neighborhood every morning, how does the local infrastructure not just completely buckle under that kind of pressure?
Well, that is the exact challenge municipal leaders faced. You don't just put down train tracks and hope for the best.
Right, you need a plan.
Exactly. To support that influx, the impacted municipalities have poured over $150 million into urban revitalization.
Wow, $150 million.
Yeah. It's about fundamentally redesigning the perimeter of these stations.
Right, because normally a suburban train station is just, what, a concrete platform surrounded by a giant sea of asphalt parking.
Pretty much.
But this $150 million is going into tangible upgrades. We're talking bike paths, linear parks, and service infrastructure right around those hubs. It changes the entire layout of the neighborhood.
Exactly. And that physical change directly triggers a shifting social fabric. Because of the ERM, you now have a sub-30-minute commute to downtown Montreal from places like Kirkland.
Which used to take forever.
Right. That level of access is attracting a completely new demographic. You're seeing a wave of young professionals and urban families moving in.
People who previously would have restricted their home searches to the immediate urban core.
Exactly.
Which means the traditional suburban landscape has to adapt to what these new residents actually want.
They expect different things.
Yeah, you can already see how traditional shopping centers are having to evolve to keep up. They aren't just your standard strip malls with a grocery store and a dry cleaner anymore.
No, not at all.
They are turning into these mixed-use living environments that combine retail, workspaces, and housing all in one footprint.
And we cannot overlook the environmental and traffic impact of that shift.
Sure.
When you build integrated living environments around high-speed transit, you alter commuter behavior. There's a critical metric we should look at here. an estimated 12% drop in peak hour commuter traffic on Highway 40.
I want to pause on that 12% figure.
Sure.
To a layperson, a 12% drop might not sound like a revolution. Is that actually enough to feel a difference when you're stuck behind the wheel on a Tuesday morning?
It absolutely is. Traffic operates on the margins. Think of Highway 40 at rush hour.
It's a nightmare.
Right. When a highway is at 100% capacity, it's gridlock. Nobody
Yeah.
moves. But if you drop it to 88% capacity, suddenly the flow returns.
Oh, I see.
Taking 12 out of every 100 cars off that specific artery is the difference between a parking lot and a functional highway.
That is a great way to put it.
Changing human commuting behavior is notoriously difficult, so a double-digit drop is a monumental shift. It proves that if you give people a fast, reliable alternative, they will leave the car in the driveway.
You mentioned local zoning shaping these communities earlier. Let's actually compare what that looks like in practice, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all transformation.
No, every town is different.
Different municipalities are taking totally different approaches to how they handle this new REM connection.
Right.
For instance, Pointe-Claire is leaning heavily into high-density condo towers and commercial space around their Fairview station.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Kirkland is focusing more on that mixed-use, transit-oriented development model we just talked about.
The living environments.
Exactly. And then you have Dollard des Ormeaux, or DDO, which is seeing this revitalization of traditional bungalows through duplex and triplex conversions.
It's a perfect illustration of how municipal vision dictates the physical reality of transit integration. You have one train line, but three entirely different philosophies on how to build a community around it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look closely at two very different stations, Des Sources and Anse-Lorme.
Okay.
Let's start with Des Sources, which is essentially the new DDO hub. Historically, if you knew this area around Des Sources Boulevard and Highway 40, you knew it as a transit-heavy industrial zone.
Lots of concrete, lots of trucks.
Yes, exactly. But today, it is transforming into a massive transit-oriented anchor specifically targeting the middle class.
The flagship project there really tells the story. In the Hymas and Des Sources sector, developers like Sautremont, who people might know from the Square Greenwich project, they're taking underutilized industrial lots and converting them.
Reclaiming the space.
Exactly. They are building high-end rental complexes alongside condominiums, and specifically, they are focusing heavily on 1 to 3 bedroom units.
The publication mentions developers building Liveo-style rentals there. For those of us who aren't reading real estate brochures all day, what does Liveo-style actually look like on the ground?
Right, it's a bit of an industry term. It basically refers to high-end, all-inclusive rental living. Think resort-like amenities. Gyms, pools, co-working spaces built right into the building, with utilities often included in the rent.
Okay, sounds pretty nice.
It's designed to offer the perks of luxury condo living without the mortgage. Pairing that style of living with 1 to 3 bedroom layouts is a direct play to attract families, not just single professionals.
And the financial ripple effect of that strategy is clear. Local land value around Des Sources has risen by approximately 18%.
Which is significant.
It is, but there is one detail that caught my eye. They built a 484-space park-and-ride lot at this station.
Yes, they did.
If the goal is to get people out of cars and build this walkable, green community, isn't dropping a 500-car parking lot right at the station counterproductive?
It seems like a contradiction at first glance, but you have to meet suburban residents where they are.
Okay, fair enough.
That park and ride acts as a transitional stepping stone. It pulls in residents from the deeper, purely residential neighborhoods of DDO who don't have sidewalk access yet. They can drive 5 minutes, park, and be downtown in half an hour. It's a pragmatic solution to a complex problem.
That makes sense. But the financial and logistical impact is only half the story at Des Sources. They've also created a 15.2-meter-high landscaped public plaza right at the northeast corner of the station.
That plaza is incredible.
Right. Think about that from an urban planning perspective. They took an area where asphalt completely dominated, an area that absorbed heat in the summer and offered nothing to the community, and turned it into a cool island.
A literal breath of fresh air.
Yes. It's now a community gathering space, effectively creating a neighborhood center where literally none existed before.
That is the essence of urban reinvention. But let's contrast that industrial revitalization with the absolute end of the line.
Let's do it.
If we shift over to the terminus station on Anse-Lorme, it is a completely different atmosphere. The publication describes this area as the connected green suburb. It is where prestige meets nature.
The flagship development here is called Square Bellevue, a project by Dove Mehta and QMD. But rather than high-density towers right on top of the station like we saw at Best Sources, this is an exclusive domain featuring modern units set in a wooded environment.
Right.
And it's about 4 kilometers away from the station itself, which sounds idyllic, but a wooded domain 4 kilometers from the train doesn't just naturally connect itself. How do they actually bridge that gap?
This raises an important point about how municipalities afford to integrate these new communities. To make Anselorm work, the city of Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue had to invest $5 million just to construct Morgan Boulevard North to secure access to the rim.
$5 million.
Yes, that is a heavy financial lift for a smaller municipality.
I read that in 2023, the regional tax share put massive pressure on the city, resulting in a 17% tax hike for residents.
It was tough.
I mean, if I'm a resident in 2023 facing a 17% jump in my property taxes, I'm probably grabbing a pitchfork. That sounds incredibly painful.
It was a very painful transition period. It's the harsh reality of urban growth. You have to build the roads and the infrastructure before you can collect the property taxes from these new developments.
The cart before the horse.
Exactly. However, looking at the situation now in 2026, the new tax revenues flowing in from these high-end developments are finally stabilizing the city's municipal finances. The investment is paying off.
Beyond the finances, there is a complex ecological story here, too. You are building a high-speed transit terminus right next to some of the most sensitive natural landscapes on the island. How do they avoid just bulldozing over the greenery they're trying to promote?
What's fascinating here is how the broader metropolitan government stepped in to manage that tension. The city of Montreal actively consolidated the purchase of adjacent lands around Anselorm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did this specifically to ensure that this rapid densification does not harm the biodiversity of the Grand Parc de West. It's a very delicate balancing act, promoting necessary urban densification while simultaneously drawing a hard line in the sand for ecological preservation.
It's a striking contrast. On one hand, you have Des Sources turning industrial asphalt into a high-density middle-class anchor.
Right.
On the other, you have Anselorm building prestige housing while fiercely protecting a massive nature park. But both of these stations, and honestly every station on this line, face the exact same fundamental problem.
The last mile.
Yes. It's a problem anyone living in a suburb knows all too well. The dreaded last mile.
The logistical nightmare of the suburbs. It's the make-or-break factor for any heavy rail system expanding into low-density areas.
Exactly. I mean, picture trying to walk down a winding suburban cul-de-sac in mid-February. There are no sidewalks, the snowbanks are 6 feet high, and the wind is howling.
Not ideal.
Not at all. How do you get a family living in that environment to actually use the heavy rail system without just defaulting to their heated car?
And that is where the fine mesh connectivity model comes into play. The success of the REM here doesn't actually depend on the REM itself. It depends entirely on STM the Cerro, the local Montreal Transit Authority, and EXO.
EXO being the regional commuter rail and bus network, right?
Correct. They operate the wider metropolitan transit outside the immediate downtown core. Think of the REM as the main artery of a body.
Okay.
It can pump a massive amount of volume very quickly. But it's absolutely useless without the capillaries, the local buses, the bike paths, the shuttles, actually bring the blood out to the fingertips.
That's a great analogy.
They had to completely rethink their strategy to break the isolation of these sprawling neighborhoods. Take the strategy at Des Sources, for example. They didn't just tweak existing bus routes. No, they implemented a high-frequency express feeder model. The new Route 475 express bus now connects Gouin Boulevard directly to the Des Sources station in under 12 minutes.
That's fast.
And during peak hours, it runs every 8 minutes.
Running every 8 minutes is the game changer. You don't have to check a schedule or stand freezing at a bus stop wondering if you missed it. You just walk out and know a bus is coming.
Exactly.
That initiative was fueled by a $12 million annual reinvestment into the local bus service. Interestingly, they funded part of this by cutting redundant bus lines that used to drag all the way to the Côte-Vertu metro station.
Trimming the fat.
Yeah. They redirected that money to make the local last-mile connections lightning fast.
It's a brilliant reallocation of resources. They prioritize frequency over sprawling surface coverage, ensuring that the time gained by taking the REM isn't lost waiting half an hour for a local bus.
But they didn't stop at buses, which is the part that feels a bit like we are living in the future. For the super low density areas, those winding suburban streets where a massive articulated bus makes no sense, they are rolling out micromobility pilot projects.
Yes, the minibuses.
We're talking about app-reservable electric minibuses currently serving the southern pockets of DDO. You pull out your phone, book a minibus, and it takes you directly to the station.
So convenient.
On top of that, they've installed 15 electric BIXI bike share stations strictly within a 3-kilometer radius of the Des Sources station.
It creates an entire ecosystem of active transit. By providing secure bike paths leading directly to indoor bike racks at the station, they are making it genuinely viable to leave the car behind.
Definitely.
But for you listening, let's translate all this infrastructure into the actual payoff. The financial impact on a regular household is substantial. Estimates show that participating households, those who fully adopt this micromobility and transit ecosystem, are saving an average of $2,200 a year.
$2,200 a year, just by changing how you move around your own neighborhood.
Exactly. Because they are entirely eliminating the need to own, insure, maintain, and fuel a second car.
And that's just the financial side. Let's talk about the time, because the comparison between 2024 and 2026 is eye-opening.
The numbers are staggering.
Let's say you're traveling from the Pierre, Fonds and Sources area. In 2024, getting to Central Station downtown by car, bus, and metro took you anywhere from 65 to 80 minutes.
On a good day.
Right. Today, in 2026, using the express bus and the RM, it takes exactly 35 minutes. That is a 50% drop in your commute time.
Half your commute just vanished.
It gets better. Getting to the University of Montreal, the Edouard Montpetit station. In 2024, that was a grueling 75-minute trek. Today, 31 minutes.
Incredible.
That's a 58% drop. And my personal favorite, getting to Trudeau Airport YUL. It used to be a 25-minute drive, which really meant navigating unpredictable traffic, paying exorbitant daily parking fees that cost more than your actual flight, or begging a friend for a ride at 5 a.m.
We've all been there.
No, it's an 18-minute ride on the REM, a 28% time reduction, and zero parking stress.
When you look at those numbers, it's clear why the property values are surging and the demographics are shifting. You're essentially giving people their lives back.
You really are.
Those hours previously lost in traffic or waiting for transfers are now returned to them. This fine mesh integration of micromobility, high-frequency express buses, and heavy rail is rapidly becoming the definitive case study for North American suburbs looking to break their car dependency.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about real estate premiums, 15-meter-high green plazas replacing asphalt, electric minibuses, and hours of reclaimed time. When you pull all the way back, what is the core takeaway from this deep dive?
The primary takeaway is that the West Island branch of the REM is no longer just a blueprint or an abstract construction project. It is the absolute engine of the 2026 residential economy for this region.
The engine.
Yes, it proves that transit infrastructure doesn't just move people, it actively reshapes human geography. But it also highlights the ultimate challenge moving forward.
Which is?
For both municipal leaders and residents, the tension lies in balancing this explosive transit-driven growth with the necessity of preserving the unique character and the ecological boundaries of each individual neighborhood.
That balance is everything. And for you listening, whether you are an investor looking at property values, an urban planner studying transit-oriented models, or just a curious resident wondering why your neighborhood looks different today than it did 3 years ago, this matters.
Absolutely.
Because the way physical space is utilized, the way transit is layered into a community, directly shapes how that community breathes, how it moves, and how people interact with one another.
It dictates the rhythm of daily life. The shift from an isolated, car-dependent suburb to a highly connected, mixed-use transit hub changes everything from your household budget to the amount of free time you have in the evening.
It really does. And I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over today based on everything we've unpacked.
Go for it.
If a single transit line can eliminate the need for a second car, if it can slash your commute time by nearly 60%, and if it can trigger the transformation of industrial asphalt into 15-meter-high green plazas, at what point do these areas stop being suburbs altogether?
That's a great question.
Right. If the defining feature of a suburb for the last 70 years was car dependency, what do we even call these new connected green villages of the future?
That is the question urban planners will be trying to answer for the next decade.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you a new perspective on the concrete, the rails, and the communities right outside your door.
Thanks for listening. Keep questioning the world around you.